Hello and welcome to the Dragons Lair podcast, your home all things Dragons RFC and rugby in the region. I'm Jamie, and joining me as always is my co-host Gavin Thomas. How are you doing, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie. I'm not one for mounting misery on misery, this is a Dragons podcast, but my week has been defined by a 32-mile train journey that took nearly 3.5 hours yesterday. So I'm currently full of rage, but other than that, I'm fine.
We're going to be talking about the Dragons, so try to limit that rage if it's possible. Oh dear. Okay, so you can find us on platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and the Sports Social Network. And if you like what we do, please rate us and leave us a good review, as it all helps to grow the pod. So tonight, Gav, what we're going to do on the pod is we're going to look at the season so far for the Dragons. What's going right? Not much. What's going wrong? Quite a lot. And what needs to be improved, etc. That kind of thing. And to help us do that, we have the sports reporter for the South Wales Argus. And fair play, how he manages to juggle Dragons and Newport County is quite remarkable. He's a very busy man, but he is joining us tonight. It's Chris Kirwan. Chris, welcome to the pod. How are we?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Really appreciate you, Joyce. I know you're busy, man. I know you're working on the transfer day blog as we speak. So any Newport County news, please feel free to let us know.
It's a very quiet day. When this is published, people might they'll either know that it was a dramatic few hours, or I just was waiting till 11. So we'll find out.
Right. Okay. So let's get into it. So let's look at what's happened so far in the URC and Europe. The Dragons have played a total of 13 games, and we've won just 3 of them. So we had 2 wins in the league against our Welsh rivals, Ospreys and Scarlets. And we picked up a bonus point win against Oyonnax in the Challenge Cup. And there were some pretty painful defeats already this season. Thinking about those defeats out in Munster when we had that depleted squad. Out in South Africa as well, that was pretty tough, including that record defeat to the Sharks. And then we had that absolute shambles at the Arms Park, didn't we, with Dragons losing 55-21 to Cardiff. So, Chris, what have we learned about the Dragons so far this season?
Well,
this one feels.
I know, yeah, straight in there with that. It's been quite a familiar feel. Let's be honest about it. It's a lot of optimism, and it's quickly gone. The same old, isn't it? They're still nearly men, which is the frustration. There are games there. Once again, they should have been winning, and we're in this break now, and they're out of Europe, and they shouldn't be out of Europe. Let's be honest. They had chances there before the Sharks game to be still in it, and that would have given us all that usual thing of having at least a bit of European knockout rugby to look forward to in the sort of closing months of the season. But I would say that there are bleating on about positives, which you can do. There are some young players coming through, and that is one of the plus points. Maybe not to the extent of how Cardiff have done it with the success they've had, but there are some really exciting young players coming through, and I think we'll see more of them in the running.
Yeah, you mentioned Europe there. That was very disappointing, Chris, because I don't know about you, and I don't know about you either, Gav. When those pools were drawn, I looked at our pool and I thought, we'll get out of that. I felt confident, foolishly maybe so, I don't know, but I looked at it, I felt confident the Dragons were going to get out of that pool. And, we started off with a really good bonus point win against Oyonnax. Then we went to Po, played a very good performance, got pipped right at the death. But you're thinking, well, that's okay because we came away with a bonus point. Should have beaten Seabird. It's that second half drop-off, which is happening a lot this season. And the Sharks game, I think, as soon as it came to that situation where the Dragons had to win, because we know Dragons are not very good under pressure. Once we knew we had to win, I think it was always going to be very difficult. But Europe, I do agree with you, Chris. It's been very disappointing, isn't it? Because I do think that would have given supporters something to cheer, a bit of respite from the struggles of the URC, isn't it?
Not getting battered in South Africa, and then having if it'd been Zebra at home, they win that, don't they? So it's
well, you'd hope so.
But it's they didn't have any minnows in the group, but as I guess the Scarlets have shown, having minnows in a group isn't necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So obviously, Chris, go on, Gav.
I was just thinking the disappointment this year for Dragons for me has been not so much that we haven't won many games. There's been a couple of games where we've just really, really kind of folded up and not done anything. And the Zebra game, I can almost put to one side because yeah, we should have beat them, but it's the Cardiff games, it's the Sharks. You know, they're the games which are problematic for me. I think where we've shown very little spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the ones that you fans get because it's they do care, but there are times when that Cardiff game it looked like they didn't. It was just it was way too easy. There's just individual mistakes, and so many people to make so many mistakes was remarkable. Really, I don't think anyone saw it coming. To be brutally honest.
Well,
No.
we both said there was a chance we could win it.
Yeah.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? That's our motto now on this podcast, Chris. I don't feel listen to us. We always say it's the hope that kills you. You mentioned the Cardiff game there, Chris. They took a lot of criticism, rightly so, from a lot of fans and people in the media, pundits, etc. Jiffy came out on X and said a lot of the Dragons players are not good enough to be pro. Look at the results over the last few years. Do you think he's got a point?
I think there are some players at the Dragons probably that have been kept on too long at certain times. But
yeah,
I would say he was saying that after you look at that 23 against Cardiff, and I'm not sure many of them you probably have that argument about being pro. Pretty much all of them are established players in that 23. So I'm not sure about being a pro. I would say there probably does need to be an element of a culture shift of pushing sort of good, honest local lads to the door after a few years, saying, mate, I don't know. That's easier said than done. I guess it's I think he was a bit harsh saying pro, but no, they're certainly to get that top end level pro is probably right. There's a balance to be made, isn't there? Because the Dragons traditionally have been strong when they've been able to get a tune out of people that other people think might be a journeyman. And I know we're harking back a long time to the Paul Turner days when he was there, but that's what they did, wasn't it? You find someone like a Joe Beerman and you turn them into a really good pro, and that's what you want to see, that progression as well, with people who might not be valued by others, but really can come in and can produce.
No, I agree. Yeah, because I think that when we've signed big name players, Chris, it hasn't worked out for us, has it? I could think of like Rob Evans, for example. I was really excited when we signed Rob Evans. I thought, brilliant, great signing. He's gonna want to get his Wales place back, and we've signed a lot of big name players who just haven't delivered for us for some reason. I think there is something to be said for those hard working players who are not household names. The likes of George Knott, for example, and Sean Lonsdale. I think they've been pretty good for us. What do you think, Gav? Do you think that's the route we need to go down now and sign these, what Chris is referring to? Maybe not journeymen, but sort of lesser known players, but players are going to perform sort of week in, week out, rather than big names?
Well, I think yes, but at the minute, I'm not quite sure what it is that Di is looking for, as a playing group as a whole. It's difficult to work out what the playing style is. Is it defensive rugby? We do play a lot of kicking game, but then we are trying to throw it about, and he needs to get players that fit what he's trying to do. And at the minute, it almost feels like he's getting whatever's about and hoping it fits into what we're trying to do. Like Dan Lydiat's a great example of it. I like Dan Lydiat as a player, and he started with us, and it's great that he's ending with us. But does Dan Lydiat add anything to the playing group that we have? Is he bringing it, offering anything else? No, I'd really like Di to say, the players I want are like this. I want big mobile back row. I want this. I want that. And these are the players I'm going to get, and just go looking everywhere for them. Finding them in the English Championship, finding them in the English First Division, dragging them out to the Currie Cup.
I think that's
Yeah.
what the plan is to go for those players. That's what they were trying to do with Dion Slabbert, who would have added to the second row. He was a player who's under the radar of many, and I guess it's being that you've got to accept where you are in the food chain, and it's almost being that stepping stone, which is what, that'd be a good route for someone, isn't it? Say, come play for us, earn that move to France, that sort of thing. So it's getting those players of potential, but equally you can't, when you've got tight budget, you can't just have punts on people. They need, and that is where I know they're doing their research on people. And when you mention English Championship, that's where I guess the sounding board of Paul Turner is very useful. He knows that.
Yeah.
He knows that division very well. He knows players of potential.
Yeah.
He knows the Welsh Exiles route of people who have that as well, where they can dangle that carrot. But then I think I see what the Lydiate signing adds, because the whole point is that you do have these X Factor players of Wainwright, Basham. You need to free them up, and you need someone like that. And I also think I think he's only played 4 games. Top of my head, but I do know for a fact he's massive around the place. If you've got George Young, Ryan Woodman, they are. You
Good
don't
mentor,
just sign one
isn't
to
he?
be. You don't just sign someone to be a teacher, but it is valuable when they've not got the biggest coaching staff in the world as well. So similar with
Yeah.
Steph Hughes with these young centres coming through. I mean, he is by all accounts a great bloke to teach the next generation. So it's finding that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chris, when you watch the Dragons this season, what stands out to you as being the main weaknesses in this team and the issues that need fixing? Because me and Gavin always talk about, the lack of leadership. The compounding errors for me drives me nuts.
That's
The unforced errors, it really drives me nuts to see players, when they can't catch a ball or when they make an unforced errors. What are the issues that are standing out for you, Chris? What frustrates you when you cover the Dragons?
It's when you see momentum going. I don't think they're very good at changing that momentum. It is a very hard thing to do in rugby, but when things start going wrong, I think they struggle to wrestle back control. You see things creaking, and you can just feel it going, and they don't manage to wrestle it back. And whether that's down to game management, I don't know, or someone who can come up with a big moment. It's those moments that and the lack of a real killer instinct, and it's hard to. Sounds harsh. I'm going to dig out one player here, but that Jared Rosser try, go 10-0 up against the Sharks.
I know.
It's moments like that where you. Yeah, and that sounds harsh because I'm picking on one bloke, but well, my job to do it, I guess. But that was a big moment. You go 10-0 up, and that's just changing the complexion of the game. Similar.
Yeah.
There have been times in Zebra, I don't know, they did build a nice score, but you get that big. If they go from say 9 to 16, that's you can crack a team. Whereas I don't know, they miss those sorts of opportunities.
I think there's been a couple of sliding doors moments, to quote a film that I just realised is about 25 years old. But there have been a few moments in a few games where if they'd gone slightly differently, it would have been different. Jared Rosser against Cardiff earlier in the season, when he's under pressure, but all he had to do was kind of pick her up and he's over. Jared Rosser against Sharks there again. And just some decision making in the game against Zebra, also against Edinburgh as well, where if we kicked more effectively, that game's different. And and everyone could say that, if
I was going to say I can't work the other way. I'm sure the Scarlets are saying Sam Costello.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I don't really care what the Scarlets are saying, but they can have their own sliding doors moments. But and the season has been like that. But the problem is, if you're a better team, the sliding doors moments go your way.
Yeah. Just to pick up on what Chris is saying, though, when we are under the cosh, you do get a sense, don't you, that the Dragons are going to implode. And we've seen this, Gav, we've talked about it so many times on this pod, and we've seen it so many times throughout the years. And I'm going to say this now. I don't know what Chris thinks about this because he covers both County and Dragons. I want the Dragons to be more like Newport County. Okay, so I got a season ticket for both teams, as you know. What I love about watching the County, when they're under the cosh, they fight. There's real grit in that team. They fight to the end. And I think that's the motto, isn't it, Chris? I remember you writing in the piece, it's like their unofficial motto. Newport
Yeah,
County,
well,
we
sort of
fight
always
to the
had
end.
that, yeah.
Yeah, but why can't that be the Dragons? I just wish they followed their example. You know, I was at Boxing Day at Ronnie Parade. County went 2-0 down to Forest Green Rovers. We came back and we won 4-2. Really, really good performance. So we're under the cosh. Came back, brilliant performance. Meanwhile, I'm looking at my phone and I'm seeing Dragons throwing the white towel against Cardiff. You know, it's that kind of thing. When we're under pressure, we're not very good at handling it, are we? And I'm not saying the players don't try. I know that they train really hard and I'm sure they are giving their all. They are professional players. But I just want to see a bit more fight and grit, Chris. Do you think that's fair to say that? Or, you know?
At times, yeah. It's sort of those. Sometimes it is hard comparing football and rugby, but like it's easier said than done sometimes when you're playing them. I was thinking, not necessarily the Sharks, but when you're saying like when the Storm, I think it was it was the Bulls, wasn't it, last season, who came with it just ginormous, and when momentum's going against them, it's very hard. But there are times, I tend to agree with you, where it's sticking on in there and just managing those moments and being able to just dig in and then change the momentum. But you are right as well with you mentioned earlier the compounding errors and piggybacking penalties. They're the killers, aren't they? And we see them all. We see them so often.
We do, and I don't want to give any credit to Cardiff if I can help it. But they have been competitive in almost every game they've played because they are showing a lot of fight and the youngsters are stepping up. And I just want to see us have a bit more fight, a bit more grit. And when we are under the cosh, don't lose your heads because we see it time and time again. You can feel it. And I wonder why that is. Is that a culture thing, do you think, Chris? Because this isn't just a recent thing. We've seen this at the Drags now for a number of years, and I'm sure you have as well. What do you think it comes down to?
It is actually, there is an element of that, isn't there? Di mentions breaking the cycle of things, and how you do that in the Dragons is an interesting one. But there were times, let's not make out the Dean Ryan era was all bad. There were times where they were really good and tenacious when you had Moriarty in there, and especially when Will Rowlands was there, and that I think the Dragons' form over the past couple of years highlight how good Will Rowlands is, because when he was in that side, they were a completely different side.
Absolutely.
So there are times where they've shown that grit, determination, and mixed it with some big old sides. But
we haven't seen enough, Chris. That's the problem. I think we just haven't seen enough.
Well, it's both you and I, Jamie, have said that it does lack leadership. It lacks sometimes a cool head to just say, right, this is what we're going to do, and slow it all down.
But when people try and slow it down, you get people shouting from the stands, "Run it!" It's they can't.
We've had this debate on the pod.
It's tipping it down, and people want a fullback to be running it. But
I know. But I think that's to do with rugby crowds in Wales in general, who think it's 1974. And think you're running through defensive lines that aren't structured, whereas now it's a pro game. Defensive lines are utterly structured, and the best teams kick a lot. But
Also, just to add, I would urge anyone to listen to our James Benjamin pod and Sam Lana, who both explained very well why players kick the ball. So, if you haven't listened to those pods, go back, because Jumbo came on the pod and he explained it well, Gav, didn't he? From a player's point of view, and Sam Lana was a really good analyst, he explained as well. So, that's that then. Okay, let's move on to recruitment then, or retaining players. So we know that Rio Dyer and Aaron Wainwright have signed new deals with the Dragons, which is great news. I'm sure you all agree. Now, those two were the priority in terms of keeping players. And the attention now is going to turn to the likes of Leon Brown and Tane Basham. So I want to get your feeling on this one, Chris. Do you think Dragons are going to be able to keep Leon and Tane? Or more to the point, do you think they'll want to keep both Leon on Tain, because this is an interesting one now, isn't it? Because I don't know about you, but me and Gav get the feeling that one of these players, maybe two, will leave the club. What do you think about that?
And it comes down to valuations, doesn't it? That's where Welsh rugby is in that position now, where the club has to properly, harshly work out how much they value a player. When that comes down to Leon, who is a sensational player on his day, but he just hasn't played enough, so you don't get, that's where the value for money comes in. What can they offer him? But at the same time, with Leon, because of his track record, will he be getting the offers from over the border that he might have done before his last contract? So it's interesting. You never know what's out there, and he's starting for Wales against Scotland. That can go one or two ways, can't it? He might think, oh, I'm Wales tight head now, or he might be thinking, I need to stay in Wales because I'm in the fold. I'll accept it from the Dragons. I don't know. There's so many moving parts with all these things, and there's agents doing their job by playing people against each other. But that's where the Dragons, or any club for that matter, has to get their valuation spot on, isn't it? And say, this is what he's worth for us. We've got to just stick with this and not go chasing it. And because essentially, if they use figures that aren't the figures, but if you push the boat out by 50 grand more, that's going to mean you've got to cut someone else from. It's all squad building. It's such a tricky thing to do, which is why why the Dragons, when losing their head of recruitment, was it's suddenly added to the job for Di and getting the help of Paul Turner, obviously. But no, there's some tough decisions to be made, but at the same time there are probably some savings that can be made as well.
I think for Leon, this Six Nations will be key, really, because if anyone is interested in signing him, it will be on the back of this.
But I think with Leon as well, everyone knows how good he is when he's fit, but it's almost, in a sense, it's almost a bit of an irrelevance, isn't it? Because there'll be some clubs out there, mind, who don't give a monkeys. They think, oh well, we've got a proper test beast that's worth splashing out for. Yeah, but others know English clubs still need to be careful with what they're spending, and
agree.
So they won't be offering ridiculous money.
No, they won't. And what about Tain then, Chris? Because I don't know about you, I feel Tain's gone off the boil, especially since coming back for the World Cup. And we all know he is very talented, but he is prone to doing daft things. That elbow to the head of Ross Byrne, wasn't it, when Leinster came to Rodney Parade. What are your thoughts on Tain? Do you think there's a chance of us keeping him? Because there's a lot of rumours as well about him going to the Scarlets.
Oh no, yeah, it's all out there, and the Scarlets no doubt want him, but it once again comes down to to valuations, and also whether a player fancies a fresh challenge. Who knows? But with Tain, I think he's a funny character in a way, because he can be an incredible player, but I just remember Dean Ryan always had to manage him very carefully. He'd go out of his way to make sure that Tain knew he'd got work to do. So you can do all the flashy things in the world, but you've got to do the nuts and bolts even as a flanker. You look at he's just got to look at Jack Morgan. What Jack Morgan does, he comes up with some magnificent moments, but he does the basics brilliantly. And sometimes with Tain, you wonder, has he always got to have someone doing his graft? I remember when he came through with Wales under-20s, he always had, there was often Lennon Greggans there, who was a man for the toil. And when you've got Aaron Wainwright at number 8, I don't know. It's all about balance, isn't it? And that's but it's interesting. They'd love to keep him. He's a local lad, of course, and there's so much growth in Tain. It's ridiculous. So
I agree. What do you think, Gav, about Tain? Would you like to see us keep him?
Yeah, the thing is, he's a great athlete. He's at his best. He's a great player, And as Chris has said, it's about he does fit into our back row because I think some of his less strong qualities are covered by the fact that Wayno does so much. So it would be great to keep him because who would replace him would be my question. It's of those four, well, two we've retained. If we had to lose any of them, I think I'd be most comfortable with losing Leon.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think if you spoke to most supporters, most would say that they'd rather lose Leon. He gets an awful lot of stick on social media, Leon, even in the Dragons forums. And I get it. It's the frustration of him not having played as much. And, he gets injured. We don't see him for ages. Then he comes back into the Dragons team. And then he gets called up for Wales. And then we don't see him again. So I get the frustration. But yeah, it's going to be quite interesting, isn't it, to see what happens there.
And I think he's getting called up at the minute, literally because who else do you call up?
Yeah,
there
problem.
are no tight heads out there, so or no front row apparently. But judging by the squad that's been selected for Saturday's game against Scotland, it's. So I don't think him being a test player is necessarily a mark of quality either for Leon at the minute.
Well, we'll see how we get on in the Six Nations. We'll talk about Wales team in a minute. But I just want to get to what Dave Flanagan said this week, Chris. So he's talking about youngsters in the Dragons. He said, we've got to expose a few more youngsters, got to bring in some depth into the squad. And with another round of cuts to come, I'm sure these boys will come through. So what youngsters do you think Dyer's going to expose then, Chris? So we know about Harry Ackerman, who's been really, really good, very impressive. Ewan Rosser has impressed, but he's had his opportunities out on the wing. But are there any other youngsters you think that may get their opportunities in the weeks to come?
Well, it's about being careful with it as well, isn't it? You look at so they've got six boys starting for Wales under-20s against Scotland, plus Ebberdale's Owen Conker's in there as well. Whether it's a bit soon for them, who knows? Because they tend to just be careful in their cycle. So they'll have Six Nations, then they'll have World Rugby Under-20 Championship this summer. Some of those boys, but amongst those, the fullback Hugh Anderson is interesting. Reece Weldon is interesting as well on the wing, big lad. So it's easier, isn't it, for back threes to be given a taste of it. But I certainly think Joe Westwood's one who will get a real go as well. I think he's physically he looks good. So him and Harry,
he's big, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's walked past me a few times in the business stand. He's a big boy, really big boy.
So him and Harry Ackerman, I think, will be interesting. Harry, as I said, because he's in the under-20s, will they be more careful with him post Six Nations? Where I don't know. But one other who's in there, there's some of those who haven't really that they're not new as such, but do they find a way of giving Brodie Coughlin more action? Because
I like him. Yeah,
he's a feisty hooker. So I think getting him in there is interesting. But then, post Six Nations, I guess they've got four hookers then. But so you've got to work out how you get him in bowl. Barney Langton Cryer doing well for Newport. They like the look of him. So he played in Munster. So he's one in a position of weakness, I guess, second row. I'd like to see maybe with an eye to next season, they need to work out if George Young's, where he sits in things, because traditionally the Dragons have always had a lot of back rowers, but I'm not sure that's the case that it's, they've not gotten that many numbers anymore with that, because the next brigade, it's not so clear there. So he's an interesting one. And then there's the props, with Luke Yendel's done very well this season. So
yes, he can scrum, Chris, can't he? That's what I like about Luke Yendel. I know he's raw, but he looks like he can scrum.
So it'll be interesting whether with Fairbrother there, do you then take the strength? Is Yendel above? Has he gone above Chris Coleman? That's the interesting one.
For me, yes.
Oh yeah, I think we've said it a number of times, haven't we, that I'd always start Yendel over Coleman, I think.
And then on the other side, you got Dylan Keller-Griffiths. So he's Will he get a chance at some stage? But it's you've got to pick your games carefully, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's like you said, you got to get the balance right as well, haven't you? That's really important because the Dragons did in a bit of Chapman, as you know, Chris, chucked a load of kids in, get battered, and you're not learning anything, and it harms their development, doesn't it, when you do that? I think as well.
I think Chris hit the nail on the head where he said you've got to pick your games carefully. We haven't been able to pick our games carefully this season, so we've had to put kids into situations that you wouldn't have wanted them to, like the Lions away, like Sharks away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the Wales team then. So that's been announced today. So there are 4 Dragons in the team to face Scotland. We got Leon Brown, Wainwright, Rio Dyer, Elliot D is on the bench. So as Chris pointed out on X earlier today, Leon Brown will make his first Wales start since 2021, which is also against Scotland, funny enough. Only 3 of his previous 23 caps have been as a starter. This is a massive game for Leon, though, Chris, isn't it? This one, real big opportunity for him now.
What is it? No, it's this is a big chance to make a statement. I think it was actually Argentina. I think his last start. So and it was
right, okay.
Yes, no, sorry. He's got to grasp this chance. I think this tournament as a whole, he's got to really back up the games and put them on. I wouldn't be surprised if him and Azarati sort of swap it around. Maybe I don't know. They'll try and get the new Bath lad in at some stage, no doubt. But no, he's got to show up in the tight, but then do what he does around the park. There aren't. I don't know. Is it anecdotal that there aren't as many scrums in Test rugby? But it can seem that way. But yeah, he needs to do what he did against the Ox. So he was good against.
Yes, he was. Yeah, scrummaged really well against the Sharks game.
For a bit, I thought. Not as long as he could have. I don't know. You know my views, Jamie. Kind of. I'm not worried how well a tight head can get around the park. I want to see how much he puts his loose head under pressure. The opposing loose head under pressure.
But to be fair, I mean, look, we all saw that Scarlets game when he came off the bench and he gave away 4 penalties against the Scarlets, and that almost proved costly. But in fairness, and people were making this point today about, scrum's going to go to shit, Leon started. I said, he did pretty well against the Sharks. I thought he scrummaged okay. I don't think Leon is a terrible scrummager. We know scrummaging is not the strongest part of his game. He's a dynamic ball carrier, but it's a big opportunity for this, but it is going to be a huge challenge. So, Chris, when you look at this Wales team that's been announced today up against Scotland, I don't know if you've seen the Scotland team. How do you feel this is going to go for Wales? Because it's fair to say a lot of people are not confident about Wales' chances in the Six Nations. Some people saying it looks a bit wooden spoony, although personally I don't feel that we will finish last. How do you feel this Six Nations is going to go for Wales?
I won't be too pessimistic. It is the first game is always important, isn't it? That's cliche alert, clang, clang, clang. But it's sort of I don't know. It's with this side, it's an exciting side. I think it's about as good as Wales can go with. Obviously, ideally you'd have Will Rowlands in there, but obviously personal circumstances for him mean he can't play. But no, I don't think it's a bad side at all. It's exciting, isn't it? Start a new cycle and just have a crack. I think, and in Cardiff, I don't know. It's I think they've got a fair chance. There are tough ones. It's big ifs, but if they do lose, suddenly you're going, Christ, it's Twickenham next, Ireland. It's you're suddenly one of those, because England aren't great, but they'll always have a good pack, won't they? So so it's that factor is interesting. So I don't know. It's just good to see him. Thankfully, County Swindon's at 12:45, so get back for it. So.
Yes, I will be at that game. My plan is to go to the County Swindon game and then go straight to the pub to watch the rugby. How is it going to work for you then, Chris? Because I presume you're covering that game, but will you be covering Scotland for the Argus as well? Or
I'll be covering County, and either getting back and watching it and doing bits and bobs. But no, I won't be covering it. Yeah, we stick with the local stuff. So it's now that I'm a one-man sports desk, it's County and Dragons, and yeah, any Wales stuff has to sadly not quite get my attention as much anymore. But there we are.
Fair enough. So what do you think about this team then, Gav? You've seen it today. How do you feel about chances against Scotland? I mean, when you look at the two teams, I'll be honest, Scotland should win comfortably if you're looking at the two lineups. But let's not forget, Scotland have been bottling it in Cardiff since 2002. They always get talked up every year as dark horses, so history is against them. But when you do look at the two sides, particularly the front row does look an area of concern. Costello at 10, who I think is very talented, but we haven't got the security and the comfort of knowing that Dan Bigger is there. There's a lot of inexperience in the team. How do you feel about it?
Well, so I think this is probably the best Scotland team since 1990, and I'm old enough to remember that team. But and I was talking to Sam Larner today about the squad selection, and I was talking up the Scotland team, and he made a couple of decent points. He said he doesn't think their pack does enough work around the field, particularly defensively sometimes. And he said that as much as Finn is a great player, Finn does better in clubs where they basically make him do what the club needs rather than for Scotland where he does whatever he wants. And then I was thinking about the Welsh team. There's a lot of structure in that Welsh side. The balance is good in the back row. I think the second row is good as well. It's athletic and massive. Yes, I'm not sure about Costello, but you've got Gareth Davis there, who is experienced. Losing George North in the centres wasn't ideal. Berwyn Watkin is a good player, a good strong player, and does a defensive job as well, which is what a 13 really has to focus on. And then earlier in the season, we both said we'd like Cam win it, so it's good to see him. And the backs bench is, well, that's where we're going, isn't it? It's Johan Lloyd, Mason Grady. They're going to be Welsh internationals well into the next decade, I imagine.
Yeah, Cam Williams is an exciting young player, don't get me wrong. I am pleased to see him there, but let's face it, he's no Kai Evans, is he?
No, I don't.
Give me Kai Evans every day.
I sent a text to a friend of mine that questioned in not entirely safe for work words where Kai Evans was.
Yes, I did think he'd be in the 23, but he's not there.
Yeah,
The one thing I want to see now is Rio Dyer have his hands on the ball.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you noticed this, Chris. I watched the Zebra game and then I watched the Sharks game. Rio Dyer barely had the ball. He barely had the ball, did he? And if he doesn't have the ball, then he can't score tries. No. And with Mason Grady breathing down his neck, I do think if Rio has a so-so game, I can see a lot of people saying Mason Grady needs to go out in the wing. So this is a big opportunity as well, isn't it, Chris, for Rio Dyer, especially with Louis Rees-Zammit now out of the picture to cement that wing spot for Wales.
Of course, yeah, no, and I do think he's really made strides with the unglamorous side of the wing play, I guess. But as you say, yeah, no, it's he can be such a threat in the loose. You just think back, probably one of the best ones was Judgment Day, wasn't it? When he was it was electric that day, and that's what you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah,
showing that footwork to really go at people.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, we love Rio on this podcast. So I want to get a couple of predictions from you, Chris. I want to know who you think will win out of Wales, Scotland this weekend. I want to know who you think the Six Nations champions will be and who's going to get a wooden spoon.
There we are.
So put you on the spot now.
You're going to laugh at me now. Sneaky. I don't know. Could Wales do it? I won't be amazed. Probably just Scotland. I would say probably them. My mum's Scottish, so there we are.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, so there we are. France to win it. I think they'll overcome a few changes there. Sure. I think. I mean, it's France Ireland decides it, doesn't it? Wooden spoon will be Italy. Wales will have enough to stay above them, and although I don't know, England will be interesting. How they go out there in Rome. But no, I think it's not particularly brave call, is it, saying Italy for wooden spoon? But there we are.
That French team looks ferocious. The Tuolangi cousin, nephew, wherever he is, who's selected in the second row is just frightening. Yeah, I am not a light man. He is half my weight again, and 6'10".
Yeah, they got some monsters in that French pack. And don't get me wrong, they've lost a lot of big name players. We know that Dupont is not there because of the Olympics, and Intermac is currently injured. But you know, they got Luku and they got Jalibert, which, I mean, that's not a bad halfback period, is it? And they're tearing it up in the top 14 with Bordeaux. So yeah, very strong, very physical French team. I've tipped them to win the Six Nations as well, but not a Grand Slam. I think they'll win the Six Nations, but I don't think anyone is going to get a Grand Slam. And I've predicted it to get the wooden spoon.
Where are they dropping a game
So
then? Where are they dropping a game if they beat Ireland?
France.
Where are they dropping a game? Yeah.
Well, Hardy said on our pod he reckons Scotland could beat them at Murrayfield. I kind of laughed at that. I was like, I could see him slipping up to, like, you know, I can't see him slip. I don't think they will lose to Ireland, but it wouldn't surprise me if Ireland turned up and beat them. Potentially England. I don't see Wales. I mean, we're not going to beat them. Italy won't beat them, of course, but I think potentially it could be Ireland or England, I would say. How about you then, Chris? Where are they going to slip up? Or do you think they'll win the Grand Slam then?
I think, well, I think if they beat Ireland, I think it's, yeah, be a brave man. Murrayfield, it is who knows? Who knows? They've got it in to implode, haven't they? I guess. But
I'm with you though. I think, Chris. I think if they beat Ireland, that's it. I can't see them losing to Murrayfield. With, you know, all due respect to that Scotland team, it is a good squad.
It's a tricky place to go, Murrayfield, in fairness. But yeah, I can't see it.
I don't think there's any fear for this French team, though.
No, I don't think so. It's going to be a very intriguing tournament. There's so many big name players missing. It's going to be strange not seeing the likes of Sexton, Farrell, Courtney Laws, Dan Bigger, and yeah, it's going to be very intriguing. I'm looking forward to it. So, Chris, before you go, I just got one last question for you. I'll let you get back to your transfer deadline blog then. So, the Dragons have got 9 games left now to try and move themselves a little bit higher up the table. They've got a tough run of games, and it all starts in Glasgow in a couple of weeks. Be honest, do you see Dragons making any improvements in the second half of the season, or should we expect more pain? Or let me put it another way: do you think we can avoid finishing bottom of the league? Because at some point, you know, the Sharks are going to pull away. There's far too much quality there. So, or could you see us being, you know, worst Welsh region again? How do you see the second half of the season panning out?
I do think there's some reason for optimism. I don't think it's, you know, we'll see it. I mean, 9 games. Look at them now. I think that they can be looking to win. I don't know. They've been good in Newport, so you know, Glasgow away and Ulster away, very tough. Bulls depends who comes, I guess, and then quick turnaround to Zebra, but they've got to win that Zebra one. That's one, and then away at Benetton tough. Connacht at home, you'd like to think once again at home do something. Stormers in you never know. It's I think they can get a few wins. I think they can avoid finishing bottom, and I think it's in them to finish above the Scarlets. It would be nice for the to set up the event if it's almost a shootout against the Scarlets at Judgment Day to avoid being bottom. I think that'd be good, and if the Dragons can give themselves a shot at that, they'll be in it. And you know, and then you never know. So yeah, I think, but I think there are good things to come from. I think, you know, some of the young lads, some of the developing. So yeah.
Oh, that's an optimistic note to end on. I appreciate that, Chris. Nice try.
It's not. I'm not feeling myself then. So there we are.
No, brilliant. Like I said, we really appreciate you coming on, Chris. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you very much. Love to have you on the pod again soon, if you will. And thank you very much for joining us. Cheers.
Look forward to it. And I didn't swear as much as David Buttress, so there we are.
Did you listen to? Oh, you did listen to our interview then, Chris? Did you?
He did. He's good. You know, could sign a new lock with the amount he had to put in the swear jar.
He was good, wasn't he, Gav? We recorded that really late at night as well, didn't we? We
I was
were all
gonna
a bit
say,
tired. He was great.
Yeah. We recorded it quite late at night, so he clearly thought after the watershed. Throw it about a bit.
Nah, it was a great interview. Brilliant. Anyway, thank you, Chris.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Chris.
All the best, fellas. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye now. Thank you. There we go. So that was Chris Kirwan from the South Wales Argus. It's worth subscribing to the Argus for Chris's articles, not just on the Dragons, but county. Very, very good sports writer. One of the best in Wales, I think. I rate him quite highly. Okay, so let's move on to the Gwent Rugby Roundup. Gav, what have you got for us?
Well, we start in the Premiership where, as you pointed out on Saturday, I was very happy, man. Ebervale beating Neath 73-8.
Oh, poor Neath. They're having a wretched season, Neath, and they. I mean, it's a great result for, obviously, Ebervale, but I do feel a bit for Neath.
Now, because I'm older than you, and I keep pointing this out, I got to watch the great Neath side of the 80s.
Yeah.
And to watch that Neath side now, it's unbelievable. There's that Neath side of the 80s was phenomenal and evil.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever been down to the Knoll on a midweek.
I haven't.
It is a phenomenal atmosphere. I remember it was Neath Swansea game. Oh, I don't know, about 87, 88. Went with my dad on the Tuesday night, and just that Neath chant, and it just rolls across the terrace. It was a terrifying place to go in the 80s. Sadly, now for Neath, not a terrifying place to go. Newport won the 36-5 against Carmarthen Quins, and Pontypool lost 29-26 away to Pontypridd. So Llandovery is still top. They won against RGC. Newport in Ebervale in second, Newport in third, with Newport in games in hand. So Gwent side will come top three. Don't know if they'll overhaul Llandovery. In the Championship, Newbridge lost away to Glamorgan Wanderers 29-17. Penaltha won 73-18 at home to Treorchy. Excellent win for those boys. Cross Keys won 55-19 away to St. Peter's. In Division 1 East, Abergavenny won 17-10 against Pontypool United, holding a bit of a rough set of results for Abergavenny, so they'll be pleased with that. Blaenavon beat Bedlinog 20 points to 12. Talawine, excellent win for them, away to Dowlais up on the top there, losing or winning 28-3 at Dowlais. Anis D, they've been doing well in the league, but they lost 34-26 away to Nelson. Risker lost quite heavily at home, 27-40 against Monmouth, and the unbeaten Bryn Mawr side remains unbeaten with a 17-13 win against St. Gennes. In Division 2 East, Croeso Ceiliog beat Caldecott 34-19. Oakdale and Pilharries, cracking game that up in Oakdale, 27-all. And Ask beat Caerleon 25-0. Division 3 East, Abercarn lost 24-16 at home to Chepstow. Llanillas lost 12-26 against RTB Ebervale, and Machen won at home 46-12 against Fleur-de-Lis. Going into Division 4 East, Bedwellty lost 14-26 at home to Gwynedd. Crickhowell beat St. Julian's High School Old Boys 45-12. Haverdanis lost 21-38 at home to Crumlin, and a cracking game down at the breeding ground for many a Dragons player. Whitehead beat Blackwood Stars 36-33. In Division 5 East, Hollybush beat Westmorton 37-7, and unbeaten Pontland remain unbeaten with a 24-8 win against Abersachen. And then going into the lower reaches, Division 6 East, Girlin 5, Mago 32. Tredegar Ironsides, one of my dad's old team, beat Old Hilarians 19-14, and Trenant won heavily against Cumcawn United. But we also have an update from the Dragons All-Stars, who, if you remember, were raising attention to their game.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of a match report from them. It was a fantastic win for the Dragons All-Stars on the weekend, 26-5 over Long Levens. They have a 3-week break before from fixtures before taking on Port Talbot Panthers at Risca RFC on the 18th of February. Then another 2 weeks rest from fixtures before they trip to Belfast to face Malone Tornadoes on the 2nd of March ahead of the Ulster Dragons fixture that evening. There are some other weeks for fixtures who will be training at Risca RFC every Wednesday from 17:50 p.m. New players, 17:15, sorry. 7:15, new players are welcome. And as I promised, I will try to identify a fixture that I will drag my boots on for. I didn't get to play last weekend. Our opposition cancelled at the last moment. And
right, yeah. It's annoying when that happens, isn't it?
Well, our
When they just
opposition
pull out,
our opposition this week have done it as well. Nobody wants to come to the fortress that is Ark Alexandra Academy, upper playing fields.
Oh gosh. Okay. Is that it, Gav, for your update?
There is indeed, yes.
Excellent. Before we go, I asked listeners, our wonderful listeners, for their thoughts on the Dragon season, just in general. Did they think we were making improvements? Will they be happy with and they're not happy with? So I'll just read out a few of you before we end. So Clive Palmer, someone I know quite well, sits in the row in front of me. Some of the games are winnable. Saying now we need to learn from them. Always look forward to the positives. Yeah, I mean, if we win more games, then you can find more positives, can't you? It's easier to be positive if you're winning more games. When you're losing week in, week out, it is harder, personally, for me anyway. But I get Clive's point. Steve Davis says, great news that Dyer and Wainwright have been retained, but we desperately need to see some really good signings. He says, I honestly don't think we've improved from last year, and we've missed some really good opportunities to win games. He also adds, it would be great if we could get Di Flanagan on the pod. If Di Flanagan is listening to this, or anyone who knows Di is listening to this, we would love to have Di Flanagan on the pod. I did copy him in on X as well, just to see if he would respond. He hasn't responded yet, but yeah, we've had David Buttress, we've had James Benjamin. I would love to have Di Flan on the pod. That'd be quite good, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would be a highlight for me, I think.
And absolutely, I love to pick his brain. So I got a few questions I need answering, to be honest. But no, if he's listening or anyone who knows him, yeah, we'd love to have him on the pod. Oh. Nathan Dark said, "Well, the season is going as expected." He says, "Just thankful Sam Costello didn't bring his kicking boots." He refers to those two dire derbies we had. Retaining Rio and Wainwright was a positive for him. Mike says, a disappointing start and not much prospect of improvement. Priority must be a front five. Yeah, I think we can all agree. We've had a couple of comments about the front five. Graham gets in touch and says, when are the region going to prioritise developing the front five? Games are won and lost here. Doesn't matter if you had Gareth Edwards and Barry John at half-back. Without a competitive front five, we will sit languishing in the bottom two. It's been a problem for ages to have the front five. We've spoken about on the pod a lot. Every season, I've been on social media for a long time. We as Dragons fans always talk about the front five. And it's not like we haven't tried to improve it. Like I said earlier, you bring in players like Rob Evans and you bring in Aki Salua. You think they're going to make an impact, but they just don't, do they? It's really frustrating, the front five.
I think the front five thing, though, was a Gwent thing, isn't it? Because unlike our fancy mates further west in the country, we do love a hard bloke in Gwent. And I think that's why we always kind of talk about front five players in Gwent. We've built world-beating front rows in our valley. So, we expect it. I do think the Dragons are trying to develop a front row. Though, that's why players like Coughlin and Yendel are getting into the squad, because they're trying to develop these young players into a functioning front row. The problem is, as proven by the guys who are starting at 1-3 for Wales this weekend, there's not many of them out there.
No, that's the thing. Owen gets in touch and said, pre-season expectations, lost some big names, so hard to expect improvement. First two games at home, Edinburgh bring back 4 internationals, Cardiff bring back 3 internationals, we bring back none. That was the difference in both games. The only thing I would say, though, we should have beaten Edinburgh. I don't think the fact they brought back internationals was the difference in that game. The difference was we refused to take the points on offer. and we did not build the lead that we should have done, and then we shit the bed and we lost. So Edinburgh should have been a winnable game. Cardiff was just diabolical. Yeah, it was frustrating for that game where, you know, they did sort of rush back their internationals, didn't they, Cardiff? And we didn't. Dan Lydiate was due to play, but he pulled out. So, yeah, some frustration there, I think.
But I think the internationals didn't make the difference in the first game against Cardiff. It was the fact we missed our opportunity with Jared Rosser, and then we were bloody boneheaded when we kicked the ball. It's not we kicked the ball too much, we kicked the ball wrong. And that's what lost us that game.
Yeah, he did add that Wainwright and Rio signing the positives. I will buy another season ticket. Good man. That's what we need. You know, in these tough times, and we know it's very difficult being a Dragon supporter. We know it, but you got to keep buying a season ticket and going to support the club because they need our support. And if the club is going to survive, it needs people.
That's the
good
key.
People buying into it.
Yeah. If you don't, it doesn't survive, does it? Which is easy for me to say because I live the direct opposite either side of the country. But you know, it's
absolutely. No, you're right. Stephen has said he's talking about the lack of cutting edge in our backs. Line breaks are really made. Jared Ross has raised his game, but never seemed to be coasting. I think that's a little bit harsh, to be honest. But I do think there is an issue with our attack. And that comes under the remit of Matt O'Brien and Di Flanagan. The cutting edge, we definitely need that because, you know, you watch the Sharks game and go back to Zebra game and other games before that. When we're not very good, we're good at getting into the 22, but we're just not clinical when we're in the red zone. We lack accuracy, don't we? You know, we make plenty of entries, but we just haven't got that finishing touch that we need.
Because I don't think it's cutting edge that we lack; it's precision. Because you know, we do make line breaks. Will Reid loves a lovely runs a lovely diagonal right line off the 9 a lot, and it's very difficult to defend. And you know, Seal Tompkinson, his lines of running are less fancy. They're just quite route one, and he can do it, you know. And Jared broke the line a few times. Ewan Ross has broken the line, so I think we're breaking the line. Like you say, it's just we get in the final third and we fall apart. To use a football analogy.
Yep. Owen gets in touch. He says it's been really inconsistent. Overall, I would say it's below expectations. We know we're no world beaters, and it's a work in progress. But some massive defeats have been really disappointing. Although on a positive note, he adds. He likes the fact that we're developing young Gwent talent, and he says it's the way forward. So, those are fair points, I'd say. Yeah, you know, it's good to end on that positive and to say, look, this season has been below expectations, Gav, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah. We both said we felt we could finish 12th, 13th. And maybe we are, maybe we're over the top, you know, maybe we are glass half full types. But I think we have underperformed.
I'm really disappointed. I know I mentioned this before, but Europe for me is a massive letdown.
Yeah.
Because we should have been in the last 16. And I would have expected us to be a bit more competitive in the league. There's been too many lopsided defeats, isn't it? It does feel a little bit like the same old. So for me, I have to say it's underwhelming. I don't think 13th was too optimistic. I mean, I can tell you this now. When I made my predictions on the Rat Pod, Lee asked us to put our predictions where each region's going to finish out on social media. When I put out that the Dragons are finishing 13th, people got in touch with me saying, "Oh, that's a bit negative. I thought you'd have the Dragons a bit higher. You know, be a bit more optimistic with the squad you got now, and everybody coming down to the same budget." Now it looks like it's a little bit over optimistic, isn't it? But I did think that Cardiff would, in fairness to Cardiff, they have been very competitive, and I think the chaos they had in the off season has brought them together. You know, a bit that adversity has, you know, made them a stronger unit, and they are performing better than expected. But I did think we'd be a bit more competitive, and I did think we'd be, well, not where the Ospreys are, but I did think we'd be sort of maybe second best Welsh team. You know,
and the thing
it's
is,
not turned out that way.
Even the Ospreys, right? Ospreys, and I'm coming around your way of thinking. Well, you were always right. They are the best of the Welsh teams, but they're probably the only the 7th best team in that league.
Yeah, but let's not forget with the Ospreys as well. They have got the best squad. And even when they're down to the bare bones, there's a lot of fight and grit. This is what I was talking about earlier. I just want to see Dragons have that fight. We saw Ospreys in South Africa, that amazing comeback when against the Lions. They had like 20 odd players missing. They were down to the bare bones. I want to see that from the Dragons. I'm not expecting us to win week in, week out. I want to see fight. I want to see grit. I want to see determination. If the going gets tough, I want us to be able to bounce back and learn how to be better under pressure instead of buckling and the heads dropping. That's all I want to see from this Dragons team. And, Ospreys have got good culture. But Toby Booth is the most experienced out of the 4 coaches. Let's not forget that. They're probably a little bit further down the road, a lot further down the road than we are, I would say. The rest of us have got sort of rookie coaches, haven't we? Dwayne Peel is still, learning as a head coach. I mean, is he really up to the job as head coach? We don't know. Di Flanagan, we could ask the same question about Di Flanagan. He's learning on the job. Is he up to the head coach job? Jury's still out. And you've got Matt Sherratt as well, jockey at Cardiff, who's doing a very good job. He's been chucked into it as well.
Yeah, Toby Booth mystifies me because whenever he talks, he reminds me of Ted Lasso. It's
Believe and all that stuff.
It's not really gritty. Like, kind of like, you hear Di talking. He's we need to do this. We need to, and Toby Booth talks in Ted Lasso style.
But it works, Gav. Maybe that's what Di Flanagan needs to start doing. Maybe he needs to be more Ted Lasso to get some more out of the players. Who knows?
I think the work on the paddock is what works for Ospreys. That because I think that's where our work is lacking because there are still errors being made. Anyway, I'm not going to criticize him after we've said bring Di on.
Oh no, absolutely not. Like I said, I'd love to have a good chat with him. I'm not criticizing him. I'm just giving my honest opinion. Like I said, we'd love to get Di on.
Getting Rio on would be good as well.
He would, wouldn't it? We'll have to send his mum a DM or a sister to try and sort that out.
I know they listen as well, so
They absolutely do. Absolutely do. Okay, so if you're going to rate the season, Gav, I think we all agree, Chris, me and you tonight, and the last support this. It has been disappointing. It has got that familiar feeling about it. It has been underwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's great news about Rio and Arenstein, and yes, there is young talent, but overall, it's been disappointing. What are you rating the season so far out of 10?
Out of 10, good. I was like, I often have to make these kind of decisions in a professional context, but this is slightly different. How would I rate this out of 10? 4.5. 4. No, not a half. 4 out of 10.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to say 4. You do expect the Dragons to cop a couple of heavy defeats. I'm really still upset and annoyed about that Cardiff game, though. That was a real sucker punch, that was. Because we just didn't see that coming, did we? And that, for me, is, the Sharks were disappointing. That was a record defeat, but you could kind of see that coming. Because,
we took a weak squad out to the,
We had injuries, we had a weak squad. And don't forget, Sharks brought all their Springbok players back, didn't they? So they were fully loaded, and at home they had a point to prove. They were always going to go gung-ho at us, so I kind of expected that. I'm a little bit disappointed about the last 20 minutes because it did look like, we talked about them throwing in the white towel and stuff. But the Cardiff one, that still leaves a sour taste in my mouth, the Cardiff game. And I wasn't even there, like I said, I was on Rodney Parade, but I watched the game back. A fair play to the supporters who went there. If you turned up and paid money to see that, it's just...
I was listening to that game on the M4. We were driving up. Were we driving back? No, we were driving back. No, we were driving to my mum's. Yeah, we were driving up to Wales. And there was one point we just got past Swindon, and I felt like opening the door and just rolling out of the car rather than listening to it anymore.
Yeah, it was awful. We can never see another performance like that in a derby game. And because the games against Cardiff used are so much closer, they're much tighter. We know the outcome, we always lose, but they're all much tighter. And to see that happen was just, leaves a sour taste in the mouth for me. Right, before we go then, Gav, I want to get your prediction as well on Wales. So I don't think I asked you for your prediction. What do you think the score is going to be? That's why I'm asking you now. So, who's going to win this weekend?
Right. Who do I think is going to win this weekend? I know you were speaking to Johnny McGinty on the Rap podcast, and I've been talking to Johnny today, and he thinks I'm insane that I think Wales might win. I don't think Wales will win, but I think they might win. So I think Scotland will win 21-18. But I wouldn't be surprised if Wales won by the same score.
Yeah, so we talked about this on the Rat Pod, and I said that Scotland would never have a better time to end this hoodoo. So they haven't won in Cardiff since 2002. You look at the two teams, the lineups, it should be pretty straightforward win for Scotland.
Yeah.
However, I just got this feeling they're going to shit the bed again. I've just got this feeling that Scotland are going to turn up full of confidence and it's going to go wrong for them. The roof is open, isn't it?
Yeah.
The roof is going to be open. The Cardiff factor. I got a feeling we'll win, and I could be horribly wrong. I probably will be. We might get pumped, but I just got this feeling that we're going to pull off a win here. So I'm going to say Wales by 6.
Johnny said to me when I was chatting with him earlier, he said that third is the bare minimum Scotland expect this time rather than, a target.
Yeah.
And today's, Saturday's where they'll define that. But I think we could bite them in the arse.
If they don't beat this Welsh team, then we can't take Scotland seriously for the rest of the tournament, as far as I'm concerned. You can't take them seriously if they can't turn up and do this.
Nor as a tournament winning team. If they genuinely, and I try not to pay too much attention to rugby fans because all rugby fans are a bit one-eyed. But if they
what do you mean?
Well, we aren't. But that's because we're the best. That's because we're the best ones, Jamie. But if you think you're a tournament winning side, you have to come to Cardiff and win convincingly. Because France will, Ireland will.
Yeah, absolutely. So you may or may not be playing this weekend then. You don't know if you'll be. So if you're playing, you won't be able to watch the game then, will you? Or will you?
No, I will be. It's 2:00 kickoff.
Oh yeah, that's all right then.
The plan was 2:00 kickoff at home, then watch the game in the clubhouse.
Sounds good.
Afterwards. Now it depends if we, people listening to Dragons podcast don't want to know about the intricacies of Sussex rugby, but most of the Sussex clubs are in the middle of the county, and we're out on like the kind of far east corner of it, and there's only 3 clubs in our area, and there's like 15 around Brighton, so clubs don't like to travel to us, just because we live in the arse end of nowhere. So I don't know. I'll probably be in some weird bit of Kent tomorrow if I want to play rugby. We'll see what happens on Saturday. It's not even, it's not Friday. I've lost track of days.
And just to confirm, you have retired, yeah?
I'm fully retired, yeah. Apart from the weekends, I'm not. That's what I'm looking at now. I'm retired apart from when I play.
Retired apart from when I play. Brilliant. Okay, I think we'll call it.
Absolutely.
Call it a wrap now. There was a really good chat with Chris, wasn't it? I enjoyed that. Always good to get his insight. Fair play to him for juggling both county and Dragons.
Yeah,
but,
and
who knows?
We might wake up to county signing someone really exciting.
Or we wake up and Will Evans is gone, or someone like that, Shane McLaughlin. Who knows? Fingers crossed. That won't happen.
I'd be all right if Will went to a Saudi Arabian club for 10 million.
He deserves it. The form he's on at the moment, and it'd be great for the county, wouldn't it? Brilliant. Okay, then I think we'll leave it there, Gav. Thank you as always for joining me, and thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week, the week after, I think, is next, because Glasgow's our next game. So I think we might give it a miss next week and be back in a couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll have Johnny McGinty join us if his internet is working, because we did the Rat Pod this week and we had some technical issues from Johnny, it's fair to say.
Indeed.
Yeah, but we'll have to see how that one goes. But like I said, thank you, Gav, and thank you all for listening. We'll speak soon. Goodbye.
So the